One of the sectors in crypto that's grown the most in 2025 has been perp-DEXs, perpetual decentralized exchanges. And quite honestly, it really was spearheaded by the likes of Hyperliquid on the tail end of 2024. But we've seen a massive amount of different perp-DEXs come out of the woodworks over the last several months and really over the course of 2025, going from just maybe a handful to probably at least 20 to 30 different options out there. And I think there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of benefit in the fact that perp-DEXs, to a certain degree, are bear market proof. They are recession proof to a certain degree because you are going to have people that trade the way up and trade the way down. And the perp-DEX itself makes fees on either direction. And regardless of whether the trader is in the right or wrong direction, the exchange still makes revenue. So we're going to talk about what you should be keying in on leading into 2026, some of the top perp-DEXs you should be paying attention to, and how you can get the most points, because these are some of the few opportunities out there that you can still earn an airdrop through and be rewarded by participating within their protocol. All that and more in today's video. If you're new here, my name is Alex. Talk about crypto news, crypto passive income. If you enjoy content like that, consider subscribing. You enjoyed this video, smash up the like. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. As we dive in this video about the top perp-DEXs, I really want to focus on three main areas. The first being how far they've come, where they are today, and why I'm not necessarily bullish on the native tokens behind the perp-DEXs. I'm bullish on the idea that they are going to sustain through the bear market, and they're going to have the best opportunities, especially ones, more specifically ones, pre-TGE. Not ones that already have tokens, but ones that have a point system that are eventually going to end up in an airdrop or a token generation event. Talk about some of the ones that you should be looking at, maybe trading on, especially if you have limited capital, which ones should be the most appealing. And then lastly, highlight a couple that are almost really brand new. They're brand new. They just launched point systems, and they're ones that if you are maybe just getting in, you feel like you're late to a lot of them, these are ones that you could be really, really early to, some that don't even have the capability for you to trade on. But that being said, that is going to be at the end of the video if you want to get really, really early on some of them. So let's talk about the stats, right? $41 billion in perp trading volume in the last 24 hours. And you can see, you know, the statistics are absolutely massive that we've seen for the likes of perp-DEXs. And there's certain statistics that you should keep an eye on that make some perp-DEXs better than others, because you can not necessarily fake volume, but you can force volume, right? You can place the same trade 100 different times, but the amount of people actually holding those trades and actually keeping capital on that platform makes a huge difference. So for example, when you take a look at open interest versus perp trading volume, you can see there's a very, very big difference as far as perp trading volume compared to open interest, right? So you can see the fact that, you know, Hyperliquid has a lot more open interest. In fact, 3 times the likes of Aster as far as open interest compared to the volume. You can force a lot of volume on an exchange to farm an airdrop, but that's not necessarily a fake volume. It's just unnatural volume due to farming an airdrop. And you're going to see the difference primarily in the aspect of the open interest. So that is one of the main statistics that a lot of people don't pay attention to. They just see perp trading volume in the last 24 hours, and that's what they hang their hat on. I don't highly recommend it. Now, I want to talk about this post because I think it's one of the best posts I've seen out there when it comes to perp-DEXs, because one of the things that a lot of people, the biggest mistake a lot of people do when they get into a perp-DEX, they get into one that is highly competitive, especially if you're working with limited capital. If you're working with a couple of $100, you're not going to compete anywhere close to some of the other people out there, especially if you're getting into a airdrop opportunity later on in the point system or in the points game. So if you're working with limited capital, you want to be in less crowded territories. You want to be in more organic trading. You want to be in areas where there's not a lot of wash trading, right? You see this on a lot of exchanges where a lot of people are farming tokens. You saw this with Aster when Aster blew up. A ton of people flooded Aster with a ton of trading because they wanted to get as many points as possible. So This, I think, is a fantastic post. I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'll leave a link to it down below so you can check it out. But here's the biggest gist about this is this is a post talking about Pacific and Extended, two perp-DEXs are the most overfarmed, wash-traded perp-DEXs out there by a wide margin. Almost nobody uses these to trade organically. Even Astra looks better now. He ranked the most inorganic perp-DEXs on the market and shocked to find that some of the airdrop farms on there and how distorted their stats really are. They have insane wash trading, body, or points incentives farming going on. Now, the biggest thing, this is kind of the explanation about this, is if you open up a $1,000 trade, you will generate $1,000 of volume in open interest for a DEX, 1-to-1 ratio. Pretty organic. But if you open a trade 10 times to farm a protocol, you will generate 10,000 in volume, but still only 1K in open interest. So a 10-to-1 ratio. So the ratio is a massive, massive difference. When you look at the most organic airdrop to farm with volume of 115 million volume, $160 million in open interest, or a 0.7 ratio. That is Ostium, one that we're going to be talking about. Hyperliquid is even better, right? Which is sitting at 0.4. Lighter, not too bad. Sits at 2.7, but you're seeing some of these out here. Pacifica's volume in open interest is 14.8, meaning people are opening the same $1,000 trade 15 times before they leave it open once overnight. So this is one of the things that you should be looking at, some of the statistics, some of the data you should be looking at before you try to get involved. Now, let's just say for Pacifica, you're working with $100,000 or $1 million and you can generate a ton of volume. Maybe that's of interest, but predominantly you want to look at ones that don't have a ton of open interest in general. And so you want to take a look at, this is a great chart. Like I said, I'll leave a link to this down below because it's a great post. But this just kind of shows you some of the better opportunities out there. Ostium down here, you look at Astra, Lighter, Vantis, Variational, but Pacific and Extended are some of the most washed trading platforms out there. And it doesn't mean that it's bad, it just means it's not going to be ideal when it comes to trading. So the biggest thing also is the speculation aspect, right? A lot of people are going to speculate what the value of the points are going to be compared to the when the token actually launches. And so you're going to see a lot of this where, you know, people are going to put together perp-DEX prices. Some of these are actually already traded OTC. So for example, we've seen lighter points go for $50 per lighter point. So a lot of people will then take their points that they've accrued and put together the expectation of what the value of the airdrop could be. So there's obviously going to be a lot of different criteria people are looking at, but in general, perp-DEX volume continues to grow. It overall topped $1 trillion in November, the second month in a row above the $1 trillion mark. You're seeing overall massive growth in 2025 compared to centralized exchanges, and you've started to see a lot more competition. At one point, Hyperliquid is 65% of perp-DEX volume. Now it's just 17%. So we've seen a massive growth because it's an industry that has a ton of demand, a ton of people trade it, and it's a industry that generates very good revenues. In fact, more revenues than most of your crypto protocols out there, more revenues than most of your layer ones out there. So that is one of the things and to consider. Is probably outside of perp-DEXs, the only other crypto category that generates as much revenue would probably be like crypto casinos, crypto-based prediction markets compared to perp-DEXs. There's really nothing else that compares, and those are still going to be around in times of bear markets because there's still technically money to be made in those areas. Otherwise, in other categories in crypto, AI agents, it's very difficult to try to replicate that same type of fee generation and revenue models. So either way, like I said, you're going to have a lot of people posting stuff like this. That may get a lot of people very excited depending on the amount of points that they accrue. But in the end, there's a ton of them out there. This is just one post talking about, I mean, this is probably at least, 4, that's 9, let's just say 14, 17 right here. Like we're probably looking at 8 right here. So that's 25. This list is probably like 40 different perp-DEXs out there. Some of these are unreleased. Bulk trade, we talked about this one, but there's a ton of them out there. There's just a lot of opportunities that are out there, and you have to look at which ones do you want to set your funds aside to trade and earn points on. Now, the thing is, some of these already have native tokens, right? You see the likes of Aster and Hyperliquid already have tokens, and some of these are just very, very overly crowded. The likes of Pacifica and others, you have Drift that already has a token. And some of these I wouldn't consider really to be perp-DEXs. Phantom's more of a wallet, not necessarily perp-DEX. So you have to kind of decipher that a little bit. Orderly already has a token, and Gains has a token. So some of these already do have tokens, so you do have to be cognizant of that. But let's talk about the first one that I think has some potential, and that is Variational. Variational just launched their point system. Now, that said, if you are trading already on Variational, you got like technically allocated your points from the prior period. And here's the thing you're going to always see is people always are going to complain about the points that they get. And it's just normal because everybody thinks they should deserve more than what they got, right? And very few people are going to be satisfied. So everybody's going to want more points. Even if you got 1,000 points, you're going to wish you got 1,500 points. It's just by nature, people are going to complain about it. So either way, Variational is, I would say, kind of in the middle ground as far as not overly farmed, but still has a ton of opportunity and has a lot of interest. So I would say it's still relatively early. When you take a look at this, it was in closed beta for a decent amount of time. And when you take a look at the open interest compared to volume, it's actually pretty decent. Also has zero fees as far as maker and taker fees. So there's a lot of very good things about the likes of Variational when it was closed beta. It's opened up now. But this is one that I think has a ton of potential, right? When you take a look at open interest, it's kind of up there with some of the other top tier exchanges that are out there. And so, when you take a look at some of the others out there that a lot of people would compare it to, you can see the likes of Paradex is kind of around there. Backpack is a very big one. And you can see the volume isn't that insane, but it's a little bit on the higher side, right? So something to consider that it's still early, it's big enough, but it's not overly crowded. So if you're looking at, Pacifica, you're looking at EdgeX, and you're looking at Variational, this would be a good alternative to consider. Overall, I think the user interface and in general, most of them are going to be relatively similar. But I think the biggest thing about Variational is it's still relatively early for the point system. So you don't feel like you're too far behind. It's not too overly traded. There's still some opportunity in it. And there's some points boost based on how much you trade, different tiers that you get into. I'll leave a link down below for Variational if you want to check it out. But I think it's kind of like a middle ground. You have enough people trading it because enough people are very bullish on it, but it's not too overly crowded, and the point system just recently launched, so there's still opportunities to earn points. Now, moving on from the likes of Variational, I want to talk about Outkast. Outkast is built on top of Hyperliquid, and one of the things that I think is super interesting about Outkast is it's by the Cast team, which I would argue has the #1 crypto debit card out there. If you're wanting to offload, you don't have to offload your stables or your crypto to your bank. You can use it directly through the Cast, through like Apple Wallet or the actual physical card. There's a massive amounts of features that make the Cast card super unique. Now, what I've done is I've earned a lot of points through the Cast card, and Cast is still pre-TGE. It's currently in its airdrop stage. But the biggest thing that makes Outkast super unique is you can double farm your points with Outkast. So not only can you earn points by having one of their crypto debit cards, you can also earn points through trading, and you get a bonus if you have a card and you're trading. So it's one of those things that it almost makes no sense not to do it. Anytime you can double dip and double farm in crypto, it's oftentimes a no-brainer. And you're going to have something with the likes of Outkast. You're going to have very similar functionality as you're going to have the likes of Hyperliquid. So you're going to have crypto perps. You're going to have your RWA perps, so you can trade the likes of Tesla, Nvidia, and some of your favorite stocks out there. And then you do have some other assets as well that are available, more like commodities, gold and silver. So there's plenty of opportunity. You earn points, and like I said, you get to double dip with points if you have their premium card or their Lux card. And this is still really early. I would say Cast is probably one of the, or Outkast the trading on Outkast is probably one of the earlier opportunities that we're discussing in this video compared to some of these like variational that's out here already. Now, I want to move on to Ostium. Ostium, in my opinion, is the most underfarmed and the most underappreciated considering what they're doing and how different they are compared to all these other protocols. Here's the thing, right? Is Outkast, or not Outkast, but Ostium recently just raised $20 million as at a $250 million valuation. Now, I think this is going to be a valuation for the likes of Ostium is going to be far greater than the likes of just 250 million, specifically due to the value and the interest that has grown in commodities. And no other perp-DEX trades and offers trading of commodities the way that Ostium does. There's literally nothing else that compares. So as interest in gold and other precious metals continues to increase, Ostium is only going to also increase in interest volume in general. So overall, you saw Coinbase Ventures, Wintermute, and GSR, massive companies investing into this. Previously, they had raised 8 million. Now they've raised 20 million. This is only going to propel Ostium even further. You can see the overall chart of growth for Ostium has been very decent. And you can see overall perp trading volume pretty good. Overall open interest pretty good as well. But this is more keyed in on the aspect of trading commodities. There's not many other exchanges out there. Most of them will allow you to trade gold and they'll allow you to trade silver, but you're not going to have many that allow you to trade oil, copper, palladium, and the likes of platinum. There's really no others that do it out there. And you can see that the overall volume and the overall trading on the likes of Ostium is really good. Now, they also have stocks, they have Forex as well, and in many ways more options and more trading pairs compared to what you see with Hyperliquid or the likes of Lighter. So they are really keyed in on a specific sector of perp trading that isn't as common with your variationals, with your Ajax, with your other perp-DEX platforms. So Ostium is super, I wouldn't say it's niche because it has Bitcoin, it has all your cryptos, but it tailors to a specific market that was very much untapped, and they are very much in the lead. And we've seen, I mean, when you just take a look at Palladium and you look at the growth and the price increase. I mean, when you take a look at the growth of Palladium, let's just take from January 7th to today, it's up 84%, 85% on the year, substantially outperforming the likes of most cryptocurrencies. So a ton of interest in this sector, and Ostium is the leader in it. Now, the biggest one out there is going to be the likes of Lighter. I'm extremely bullish on Lighter. I have loved their platform for a very long time. I love the UI, I love the UX. There's nothing for me that I don't like about Lighter. And the biggest thing about Lighter is your time to trade with Lighter is extremely limited. The expectation is points are no longer going to be accruable after the end of, in probably in about a couple of weeks. TGE is expected to be around the corner, and people have very high hopes in the value of the points. OTC points have been going for like $30 to $50. So if you have 100 points and the points are valued at $50, that's $5,000 right there as far as an airdrop. And it's not very difficult to get that many points. So Lighter, by far, one of the best out there. I mean, when you look at the statistics on a DeFi Llama, as far as trading volume, it's one of the highest. Open interest is one of the highest, yet no token. And I think once it does actually launch a token, its valuation is, from what you're seeing on prediction markets, probably going to be around $2 to $4 billion. It's going to do really well. And I think getting in with the little bit limited time that you have is still very much worth it, considering what it can do. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pivot to talk about a few of these up-and-coming perp-DEXs that are recently launched, that if you're wanting to get into very uncrowded territory to farm these airdrops, these are the three that you want to pay attention to. So the first is Hyena, also powered by the likes of Hyperliquid and by Athena. Now, Athena is a massive protocol already, $1.5 billion market cap, one of the biggest on the likes of Ethereum. And overall, this is still really, really early, right? You don't see a massive following. You don't see a ton of people, but there are a ton of people who are going to eventually find out about this, that are going to pivot to this, and they already have a point system out there. So the earlier you get in trading on Hyena, the better you are going to be. So highly recommend if you're getting in, and let's just say you don't want to get into a crowded area, you don't want to get into one that is already traded by a lot of people, Hyena would be one that I highly recommend that you do check out. Now, overall, you're going to see very similar type of, when you look at the user interface, very similar to what you're going to see with the likes of, Hyperliquid and other Hyperliquid powered exchanges. Very, very similar, very easy to kind of look at and trade. You're going to have very similar type of trading that you're going to have with the likes of other exchanges. So very simple, very straightforward, nothing too crazy. The one that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to is likes of MetaMask. Now, the reason I talk about MetaMask, and I've talked about this already, is MetaMask launched perp-DEX trading, and they also launched prediction markets. Now, prediction markets is powered by the likes of Polymarket. The perp-DEX trading is also powered by the likes of Hyperliquid. So the biggest thing is MetaMask has a massive point system. Right now I've accrued, let's just see, 25,104 points, right? So I've accrued a pretty decent amount of points. A lot of them are retroactive points, but you can trade and earn towards the airdrop that MetaMask is going to be doing with their partnership. Now, there is a limited amount of time. I'm going to pull it up on my phone because you can only trade on your phone. You're not going to be able to do it on the likes of a desktop. But essentially what you can do is, I'm here logged into my app, and you can go over to perps and you can directly trade perps through, you have to move funds over, but you can trade directly through the likes of your MetaMask app. And currently, when it comes to the rewards is going to be in the bottom right hand corner. So you can see that down there. You click rewards and you can see that you get points for trading on perps. So 10 points per $100, $100 value. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities. This is one that I think when you look at options for the massive airdrop that they're going to do in partnership with Linea, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. And I think it's one that most people aren't paying attention to. I would still say it's relatively early because you still have another 35 days before season 1 ends. So plenty of opportunity, just over a month, and it's one I highly recommend that you check out. Now, the last but definitely not least is one called Supernova. I came across this one because I do follow Elio Trades, and they are going to be launching a next-gen based DEX on the likes of Ethereum. I think this is interesting. There's nothing yet about it. It's coming soon. It's just one to maybe keep an eye on, see how it develops, see what they do. Like literally this just happened. Like this is from a post from December 9th. This is super, super new, but just wanted to maybe kind of follow, see how it progresses. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. There's a ton of perp-DEXs out there. There's a ton of ways to farm their airdrops. There's a ton of perp-DEXs to choose from. What are your favorites? Which ones are you paying attention to and why? I'll leave the links down below for you to go and do your own research and due diligence. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like. You enjoy content like this, consider subscribing. Until next time, guys, stay invested.